Welcome to Real Talk with LaShondra. This is a series about entrepreneurship, leadership, and success I have learned throughout my journey in the construction industry. I'm LaShondra Mercurius, and I have been working in all of these spaces for over 15 years now. I will be sharing my thoughts and experiences about all the topics and also having conversations with amazing guests who navigate those spaces on a daily basis. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited for this episode. So we're going to be talking about starting a business and being an entrepreneur, and the different challenges of, being a female in the space. And I'm super excited. I have an amazing guest today. Her name is Trivinia Barber. I love that name. But whenever I think of Trivinia, I instantly think of like game shows. So that's so cool. Yeah, like trivia, yeah. Like I love it. This is my girl. We go way back. She is an entrepreneur. She's a podcast host herself. She's a mom. She's a wife. She's beautiful. She's a great spirit. She's a boss. She's everything that I want to be when I grow up. So I'm excited to have you here today.
Well, that's so funny, LaShondra, because when I think of who I want to be, I think of women like you who embody this spirit and this character of like, I'm going to do it and ain't nobody going to tell me I'm not going to do it. And I just love that about you. So likewise, lady, thanks for having me here. I'm excited. Let's dive in and what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, well, honey, game peeps game. So there you go. You are who you hang around. So basically, we're going to just talk about being an entrepreneur, being in business, being a woman, talking about all of the things that we've had to overcome and go through, failures, successes. I mean, just really keep it real. I mean, this is Real Talk with LaShondra. So I really want you to really share, how you really felt, about your journey, because that's what it's all about. And I think that everyone listening, they don't want to hear, well, step one, I did this, step two, I did that. No, they want to hear like the real shit. Mm-hmm. Like they want to know, like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I first started, and how you navigate in the dark. Because what I found for myself being an entrepreneur, I didn't know what I was doing. And check this out. Listen, your girl has a business degree in finance, accounting, and human resources, business administration. Okay. I didn't know a damn thing, and all the things that I thought I knew didn't necessarily apply.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the education system and how things are being taught, it almost assumes that you're a white man.
Yeah.
So those are some of the twists and turns that I really want to talk about, because one size does not fit all. And so I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say.
Cool.
So I'll let you sort of take the mic and I'll jump in and sort of ask some questions as we go along, but tell me your story, girl.
Yeah. So to give a little bit of context, I never set out to be a business owner. I didn't think that I was. I grew up kind of in a home that was blue collar. My mom was a housekeeper. My dad was a drywaller, and they worked hard, laborious, body crushing jobs. And I knew I didn't want that. And yeah, go ahead.
I said, I hear you. I wouldn't want that either.
Exactly. And so, I started out in corporate, like a lot of us do. I went to college. I dropped out to take care of my grandmother who had Alzheimer's. I felt like that was just where I needed. She was my favorite person in the whole world. And I just knew I wanted to be with her. And so I dropped out of college and I worked and got some jobs and started making my way up the corporate ladder. And that was all good until, I kind of was like, this is dumb. Why am I driving 45 minutes a day and paying $8 to park and having to dress up in stupid high heels when nobody sees me? Like, nobody comes into this office. And I used to tell my bosses, everyone can do this from home. And I would fill out these reports and I would do these presentations about like why it made more sense for us to be remote than to come into the office. And my boss was like, nope, 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 nope. And then I got pregnant. And I was going to take 5 months of maternity leave off. And all of a sudden, my ideas of working at home made sense to the corporate people. And so they let me work at home, and that was great. And I proved that I could do more at home than I could at the office because I was working when I wanted to. And I was saving my energy and really diving in and doing the things I wanted to do. And then, all of that worked great. And then we had another child. I worked at home a couple more days a week. And then we decided to adopt our child. And at that point I had to be home. So I went all virtual, all remote. It was great. And then they got bought out by a national company and they wanted me to come back in. And I was like, oh, dang, I've been working at home for like 6 years now. I am not interested in going back to corporate. And so I had to figure something out. And so I started my own business, just being an executive assistant for other people virtually from home, got connected with some superstars in the internet marketing space, and they talked about me. And then people started coming to me and asking me for more of my time, and I just didn't have any. And so the light bulb went off. And that's when the entrepreneurial thing kicked in for me. And I was like, people don't want Trivinia. They want someone they can trust. And I was like, I can help them find someone they can trust. And so Priority VA was born out of that idea that I could do two things. I could help moms like me be at home, use the skills that they've got, add money to the bottom line of their family, and go on the kindergarten field trip if they wanted to. And I could help business owners that were struggling, that we all know most businesses fail in the first couple of years, right? We could help those businesses get over the hump by providing support to them. And so it was a cool, beautiful little match. And so here we are, we're almost 8 years in, doing okay, right? We're doing okay. I've created a life for myself I never thought was possible. It's just been an amazing ride. But one of the things that's interesting, LaShondra, is when you started the show, you talked about, you didn't know what you didn't know. That's right. And it's just like when I decided to have my first child, I had no idea. And there was never no right time for me to have a child. I mean, I was never going to be ready to be a mom. When we decided to adopt, I was required to take, I think, 34 hours of training in order to be able to adopt from the foster care system. And I did something like 87 hours. I was like overachiever. I'm going to know how to handle these kids. And I had no idea what I was doing.
Overachiever. I don't get that from you.
I know, right?
I don't know
crazy.
Why you would label yourself that.
But when it came to business, and I've been asked this on a lot of podcasts, it's like, what do you wish you knew when you started? And it's simple. I wish someone would have been honest about how hard it is.
Yes.
I felt misled that you put out some lead magnets and you like say nice things and you send out an email newsletter and the money's going to come. No, it's not. It takes a lot more heart and hustle and strategy than anybody ever told me it would. And
so really quick, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm listening to your story and it's amazing. I mean, I'm literally getting tingles, all over my body because I'm thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Yes, that's how I felt. So I'm really feeling it. But the question I have for you is, do you consider yourself a true entrepreneur? Because it sounds like you sort of kind of tripped and flipped and fell into it. Mm-hmm. And I think that people think that, entrepreneurs are, people that, they're destined to be entrepreneurs. They've always known that's what they wanted to do. They don't want to work for anyone. But what I found is that most entrepreneurs didn't set out to be that.
Yeah.
Because I know personally, I didn't. Before I met my husband, I had a great career that I intended to be in forever. And although I was fascinated by, business and having a business, is not something that I absolutely had to do. Now, am I happy I did it? Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. because I do like being my own boss. I like, having the creativity to take sharp left turns or right turns if I need to. And I love the freedom, but it's hard as hell.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk to me about how hard it is, because you kind of started, but I just wanted to clarify, that there's not just one entrepreneurial path.
Yeah. I think, you've got those kids who are like, hawking Skittles at school when they're really young. And like, they just have that in them from really little if they're going to be a business owner. And I think that's great. And for those people, I'm like, man, you guys have something going on. I definitely wasn't that. And I'd say that probably the thing that I've struggled most with in the last couple of years is, am I really cut out for this? Like, can I really do this? Because sometimes I still find myself, our business is multiple 7 figures, blah, blah. And I still find myself acting like an employee. Like somebody just tell me what to do.
Yes. I have the same issue. And for many years when I started, the business, I came in at a certain time. I left at a certain time. I had lunch at a certain time. I kept it to an hour. Like I was literally trained, to do that. And my husband, he just used to look at me and he's like, why are you acting like an employee?
Yeah.
Why are you acting like middle management? Yeah. And when he would say that stuff, I literally wanted to jab him in the eyeball and twist it because I knew he was right. That was the problem. I mean,
settling into the freedom of entrepreneurship when you have been conditioned to behave a certain way is really liberating in some ways, but it's also incredibly challenging because it means that we have to walk away from everything that we've always known to walk into the unknown. And that's what entrepreneurship it has challenged me to no end, but it has grown me so much because I feel like every day I'm walking into uncharted territory, and if we look at COVID as an example, I mean, thankfully, it's like doing that for a lot of us because none of us know what's happening. But I think COVID really shook me because I was like, okay, I fix things. It's what I did when I was in corporate is people came to me with their problems and I would fix them. And this is a problem I can't fix. And some days I wake up and I don't know how to fix the problem. And that is terrifying to me. If you've ever taken, I'm a big nerd personality test junkie, probably to the extreme, but there's a personality profile called the Strengths Finder.
I've taken it.
Okay. So like 1 through 34, top strengths, I always joke 34 is like your weakness. Let's just be honest. And my number one strength is responsibility. And my number 34 strength, right? My weakness is adaptability. And I'm like, how the hell do I do this game when all of entrepreneurship is adaptability? It's like riding the rapids and you never know what's coming at you. And so my biggest challenge has been settling into that raft, right? And putting on my helmet and my life jacket and getting my oar and being like, all right, what is today going to throw at me? And that has been very stressful. I used to hide it and act like it wasn't a big deal. But I'd say over the past couple of years, I'm realizing that it does affect me. It affects me emotionally and mentally. And what I've had to do as a result is build a team around me that can handle those rapids a little bit better than I can, so that I just focus on the things that I'm really good at and I can do really well. And they handle all of the stuff that like causes me massive anxiety so that I don't have to do it anymore.
You are truth telling.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would say that I experienced something similar. The way that I sort of paint the picture of entrepreneurship is it's literally like leading a team through the dark. Because I tell my team all the time, we don't have all the answers. And as a matter of fact, we're just making this shit up as we go along. So
yes.
So
I tell my kids that too, though. I tell my kids that too. So we've got 4 daughters. Our oldest is 17. And I tell her all the time, and this equates so much to business in my life, but I'm like, you're the crash test dummy, dude. I'm sorry. I don't know what we're doing. And we're just fumbling our way through, and we're going to learn some stuff and we're going to mess up. And so equate that to your team. unless you've been in business for 40 years and you've seen a lot of stuff coming and going, we are all making it up.
We're just making it up as we go along.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is, as you move along and the years go by, you begin to test, and then you get feedback and information. And based on that information gives you cues of how to move forward, and it's funny because a lot of my team, they always say, oh my God, you're such a witch. Like, what's coming. You're like magic. And I'm like, no, I've just been through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Experienced a lot, so it feels like I'm anticipating a lot of things, which a lot of times I am, but it's only because I just took a leap of faith and I said, let me give this a try, let me give that a try. And then we figure out what works, we let go of what doesn't work, and then we build from there. And I always tell my team, this is a safe to fail environment. And as long as you're coming in and you're giving your all, we're going to ride with you, win or lose.
Yeah.
All we care about is your willingness to get on this crazy ride with us. Trust us that, not that we know what's coming, because we are leading in the dark, but trust us enough to know that we're brave enough to step out there, to test it, to be that buffer, and that we're going to have your back. We're not going to always be right. We're not going to always say or do the right things, but we're always going to wrap our arms around you and protect you. And we're going to put ourselves out there because that's what leaders do. I mean, you agree?
Yeah. Well, I absolutely agree. But I also, as you're talking, I'm like, oh shit, I have so much growing to do, because one of the things that I struggle with a lot, and I know that I project this onto my team, and it's been my biggest area of growth over the past few years, is that I am afraid a lot. And so I'm asking my team to trust me as I'm leading them in the dark, scared out of my ever-loving mind. And one of the things I've been challenged with is to not let my fear run the show. And to be brave. Yeah. And to be brave and to be willing to fail. And I think that especially when, revenues start to go down and things start to go crazy and, somebody quits or whatever, it's hard to not let that fear take over. And so for the listeners that are listening to LaShondra being like, yeah, that must be nice for you because you're not afraid. I'm over here on the other side going, I'm out of my mind scared almost every single day.
Well, listen.
The key is show up anyway.
I never said I wasn't afraid.
I know. And that's what I want to make sure we
never
highlight.
said that. Yes. Yeah. I typically am scared shitless.
Yeah.
And especially like when COVID hit, I remember having, talks with my husband like, oh, well, what do we do? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Well, I don't know. We can try this and we can try that. I mean, we literally just sat up 2-3 o'clock in the morning and just thought our way through how we can best get through this. But the thing that we always make most important is we just want to make sure that we're caring for, the psyche of our team. Yep. So it's not so much about what it is you're doing, but it's showing people that you care, that you're concerned, that you care about their safety, you care about their livelihood, you care about, their stress levels and things like that. So we really try hard to do things to make sure that people feel safe and secure. That's really what it's all about. And even if him and I do not feel safe and secure, we sacrifice that to make sure that everybody else feels safe and secure, because, we're feel like we're strong enough to just deal with it because we have each other. I mean, most of our staff is very young. A lot of them are single, and, some of them are from, overseas. They don't have their families here to care about them, to think about them, to check on them, to do those little things that make them feel like they're a part of a family and a team. And if they need something, they have somewhere to go. So those are the things that we focus on, on a day-to-day basis.
I love that. I love that. But my question to you would be this, because I like to learn from you just as much as I like to share my knowledge. how do you make sure that you get filled up so that you have that to pour out into your team? Because it's one of the core things we do at Priority VA is that we feel like if we encourage, empower, equip, and engage with our executive assistants, then they have what it takes to pour out to their clients, right? But I'm always like, where are the clients getting their bucket filled? So where do you get it filled? And then I'll share with you how I get mine filled.
Okay. That's a good question. Whose show is this? Don't be trying to take over my show.
Right? I know. It's a conversation, and that's what I love about it.
I'm just kidding. You're a boss. I love you. That's actually a really great question. But part of it is, my friendship with you. Mm-hmm. When you're a boss, you don't have anyone over you telling you, well, you should do this, you should do this. So we have to be very intentional about, seeking mentors, surrounding ourselves around people that we can learn from, that understand what we're going through. So the connection that we have, the conversations that, we've had with you and others in, in our MMT group, and we have other pockets of friends that we surround ourselves with so that when we need to fill our buckets up, we have a place to go. Mm-hmm. And we're very intentional about it. And we know that there are going to come times when we're going to be depleted or we're going to be stressed and drained. So that was something, even from early on, my husband is such a G when it comes to this sort of stuff. He said, we're going to need new friends. Mm-hmm. We're going to need to surround ourselves around people that, that have similar paths that we do, because no one else is going to understand. And I'll be honest with you, I can't go to my parents and tell them what I'm going through. I can't go to my cousins or even my brother, because I'm going to tell you something. I can't sit through a conversation of someone complaining about their boss and their supervisor and they tried to make me come back early for lunch and I was only 5 minutes late and they tried to write me up. Like, I cannot have those conversations because I will break their face.
Oh my gosh. I totally agree. I've had the same thing. I remember when I hit 7 figures in my business, I was really excited, but I had a lot of shame too. Because I was like, how do I tell my best friend who is an agent at an airline, checking people in, making $9.50 an hour, that I just made $1 million? Like, I just felt like I can't tell anybody that. And what I found myself doing was hiding my successes. And I was like, not ever sharing them. And I was really, I started to find shame in anything that I did that was good, instead of being like, what the hell? You came from like the ghetto of Denver, Colorado on government cheese.
Did you just say government cheese?
Yeah.
I had government cheese, the big blocks.
Yeah, the big block and like the can.
And it was kind of bitter, kind of sour.
It was.
Note on the end. Yes.
But it made good grilled cheese though. Can
it did. Be really honest? Oh yeah, you did. You get the thick bread and put a lot of butter. Yes, girl.
I hear you. So I found that I had to surround myself with people that were doing better than I was. That was actually my goal, was to find people that were more successful. Because, and Gary Nealon is a incredible entrepreneur, and he had the best thing, and I don't know if it's his quote, but he said that he had to surround himself with other people so that he could grow, but then he makes it a point to send the elevator back down.
Right.
And that is how I help the people that, my friend that works at the airlines or whatever, is I send the elevator back down to her to help her find her inspiration. So that's what I do, because holy cow, guys, if all we do is surround ourselves with the same people doing the same things, we're never going to see a vision for our lives that is bigger than where our eyes can see right now. And so that's what I've had to do. Absolutely.
If you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
That's not my quote, and it's kind of cliche, but I like it anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's always the key, is finding people that inspire you to be better. Mm-hmm. But we also do a lot of self-work. What I find with being an entrepreneur, and this is the thing that I didn't anticipate, is it will take you back to your childhood.
Oh, yes.
And the relationships that you have with money, the relationships you have, or not even, well, the relationship that you have with yourself. You know, what is your level of self-love? And I know for women, and you can tell me if you experience this, but early on in my growth in the business, I didn't realize that I had a ceiling when it came to money. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that, I was self-sabotaging in a lot of ways because I wasn't comfortable with having a lot of money because I just didn't have the mindset for it. And so I would, do things subconsciously, not necessarily consciously, to sort of limit my growth, whether it's thinking small or accepting less than what I'm worth or discounting myself when it's not needed, because I didn't have the self-worth that I needed to say, you know what, I deserve, top dollar. And we have this term around here, which kind of came out of that whole growth process. We tell our team, you want to make big money or you want to make big fucking money?
Oh, yes.
And then I have to tell you, so BFM is it. Is what you're doing going to make BFM or not? And then we had one young lady who's brilliant. She's been with us for several months now and is just knocking it out of the park. She added an S to What's BFM. And you want to know what that S is about? It's so clever and I love it. So I'm totally stealing her stuff right now. So when we talk about, different, clients and projects that we're on and, and wanting to earn, BFM, she said, I don't want to just earn BFM from one client. I want to earn it from all the clients. And so she said, I'm going to be big fucking money slut.
Oh,
which means that she's going to be getting it from everybody.
I want to come work in your office. I just love, first of all, I love the fact that your team can cuss around you and all of that stuff. When I was asked to start a podcast, I said, I'm not going to do it unless I can cuss because I can't not be me on a show. My money issues run very deep, LaShondra. And
let's talk about that.
I have 1,000,000% confidence in the fact that it is limiting me in my growth. I would be the girl that if my husband, Chris, would let me, I would stuff money in a mattress. I would bury it in a can in the backyard. And that belief has prevented me from taking necessary risk in my business that would help us grow. Because I'm like, no. Oh, I remember telling my husband, years ago, probably 7 years ago. So a year into the business, I want to have $10,000 cash in the bank. And then 10,000 turned into 50,000, turned into 100,000, turned into 200,000. And I'm like, when am I ever going to be satisfied? When is it going to be enough money in the bank that I feel okay to take a risk? And it's terrifying to me that I'm like, I know it, but I don't know how to solve it. And so that's, again, I'm just a mess, right? And I really want to be honest with your listeners of you can still have a successful business and be a shit show and not know what you're doing.
Right.
And you can hold yourself back from the success that is so waiting for you.
Right.
When you keep these stupid loops in your head that you might lose it. You just might lose that money. So just, hide it, put it in a savings account or whatever. And so,
hedging, you're hedging because you don't feel deserving of the money that you're having. So it's sort of that mindset of there's not enough, that mindset of lack instead of abundance.
Yep.
And I think that was really the shift for me, because I don't know if you've heard this term, imposter syndrome.
100%. I am the queen of that.
Yes. And a lot of it typically happens to women that are very successful because first of all, we just deal with a lot of shit and we always have penises coming at us every which way. Sometimes I feel like the Matrix. So it's really difficult to feel like you're worthy
Yeah.
because a lot of times you're just reduced to a vagina.
Yeah.
So that's very difficult to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So you begin to make up personas, to hide the pain, the guilt and shame that you feel for being successful and for being more than just my titties and ass.
Yeah.
And so it's very, traumatic. And then when you finally get to a place of success, you're no longer desirable. You're too difficult. You're not marriage material. So you get shit on one end and shit on the other end.
Yeah.
So how do you find your self-worth in that? How do you stay in your femininity while doing that? Because in order to be successful, a lot of times you have to really take on a lot of masculine energy. And I have this thing, I rarely wear pants. And it's kind of like a big fuck you, because I'm going to be a boss and I'm going to do it in high heels and a skirt and lipstick. And it might be pink. It might even be hot pink. And I dare you to say something about it.
I love it. I feel like I have struggled. This is like a freaking therapy show today, LaShondra. So thank you. I feel like I need to write you a check for a session on the couch.
Hey, don't leave me with a good time.
But I have my entire life. You said entrepreneurship helps us take a look back at our childhood, and I believe it does. But my entire life, I feel like I have fought to be here. I was born really premature. I was very sick as an infant. And so I had to fight to be here. And I feel like that's been my whole life, is sort of fighting to stake my claim and no, I deserve to be here all the time, feeding this sense that, oh, maybe I don't really deserve to be here. And so I struggle a lot with showing up incredibly masculine, very masculine.
Yep.
And it affects my business. It affects my marriage. It affects how I parent my children. And what I've learned, again, is that I have got to lean into that feminine energy, not to get all woo woo and, like sage and crystals or anything, but.
And what's wrong with that? I have a big old crystal on my desk to ward all of the negativity. So there's nothing.
I've been burning San Paulo, which is it's a stick. It's like a tree, and it smells really interesting. My kids are like, "Mom, what are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm getting out the bad juju. I'm trying to get it out of this room. So leave me alone." But I think people tend to dismiss it if they think people are super woo woo and all into energy and all that stuff. But I'm starting to learn that crap is real.
Yes, it is.
But all of this to say, I have been trying to lean into this feminine energy to understand that I can be successful and feminine, that it doesn't require me to play like a man. Right. Because I have been so conditioned to know that if I want to be successful, I have to play like a man. I have to act like a man. I have to have the 7 happy hops like men do. And I don't want that. But I played that game for years while I was growing my business, LaShondra. I remember being the only female on a stage full of men, and I was so fucking proud of it. I was like, oh yeah, I had those images all over social media being like, I'm up here with these dudes.
I'm just one of the boys.
Yeah, because I was one of the guys. It wasn't
but
because
what does that do to you? What does that do to your spirit? What does that do to your soul? I know for me, it's absolutely, soul sucking, because I feel when I've had to play in a very masculine space, it has affected my relationships, with my husband. Yep. And even more so with my children, and especially my daughter, because there is a space where she is looking for her femininity and she's watching me, and it's confusing to her. Yeah. So even to this day, her and I struggle, with connecting. She's actually not speaking to me right now, but that usually happens about every 5 months. So she should be coming up on sending me a text soon. But, and she tells me all the time, sometimes you just come across very unloving,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and as she's gotten older, I mean, as she's, you know, coming out of her teenage life crisis stage,
Yeah.
she's being more vocal about, you know, about that. And so it's really kind of putting me on my heels to say, well, why is that? You know, where is that nurturing side? Because sometimes for girls, they need a little bit more. Like, it's easy for me to do that for my boys because it's just sort of natural, you know, but when it's a girl, you know, you really have to dig deep into your femininity because there's so much of that energy, you know, going on. And so, you know, she's really teaching me a lot as she's not speaking to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, it's something that I'm still struggling with and I'm learning, you know, and even my husband, he's like, you know, he's like, I don't want to be with a dude. Like, come on. Like, can you just let me have it? Like, just submit for once. Just let me win one time. I'm like, no, like he literally will not play Monopoly or Scrabble with me because he cannot win.
I love it.
You know?
I love it. Let me speak to the femininity thing because I think I've learned a lot over these past couple of years about this. I show up very masculine. I have 4 daughters who are begging me to be mom. One of my older daughters told me a few years ago that I wish you would just be like other moms. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she said, you know, other moms, when their kids get home, like they bake cookies. And I was like, I don't bake cookies. I'm sorry. I'm not. No. And I had an experience about a year ago, like a deep kind of meditative experience, we can call it. And I envisioned myself as a dainty person. Dainty. And I was like, what does dainty mean? And I envisioned me baking cookies. And I envisioned something that's actually really interesting. I used to tell Chris, my husband, all the time, like, don't send me flowers. Flowers are stupid. They die. They're the biggest waste of money ever. I don't want flowers. And I started to envision daintiness and what it looked like to me. And it looked very floral. It looked like flowers, like dainty little fragile flowers. And I saw a damn t-shirt thing on Facebook on an ad, and it was a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but it said, fragile, not fragile like a flower, fragile like a bomb. And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. Wow. I have been fragile like a bomb my entire life, which means everyone has to dance around Trivinia. Everyone has to sort of like not get mom pissed because she's going to be all masculine and like flip out. But really, I am fragile like a flower. But I'm just afraid to live in that. I'm afraid to live in that femininity of wanting to be loved and cared for and nurturing and sweet. And so I coined this term. I'm actually going to trademark it, dainty bitch, because I like that. I'm always going to be me, LaShondra. There's always going to be this like probably more masculine part to my life, but I can embrace daintiness and I can do it in a way that doesn't destroy my girls, that doesn't tell them they have to be masculine to compete in this world like I thought I had to be, but they can be dainty and strong. And that's what I'm really trying to embrace through my leadership in my company, through how I show up in my marriage. And I feel like the best successes I've had in all of those is not when I will submit, but when I will surrender. And I think that I can lay down the sword for just a minute, you know, and I can just surrender to the fact that I can be loving and I can be strong and I can be all of those things and I don't have to choose. And, you know, we're all going to be okay regardless. And that's, again, just something that's kicking my ass lately.
Preach, Trivinia.
Yeah.
Preach. And I think the other thing the other piece that's sort of missing is the ability to access and sit in a space of vulnerability. Oh. That for me is like pulling teeth. Torture. Because when you're moving through this world and you're having to put on these different faces, do I be masculine? Should I be feminine? What do I need to do? You tend to build walls around, that vulnerability, because when you're not sitting in your truth, when you're not being your authentic self, it's very difficult to be vulnerable, because you don't know, you can't even trust yourself.
Yeah.
When you're not being honest with yourself. Yeah. So you become very unpredictable and very volatile when your vulnerability is in question or being touched. And what I'm learning most recently is, so I'm doing this whole, truth telling.
Yeah.
And just telling my truth. Because what I've learned is that when you're being authentic and you're simply just telling your truth, it doesn't matter how someone else responds, because it's your truth. You can't change it. It's yours. You own it, and it is what it is. And when you can sit in that, then you can be your authentic self. You can be honest, and sometimes I'm a little too honest. Little TMI going on. But as I'm learning my own boundaries, of what, is appropriate, to share. But the main gist of it all, the overarching thing, is sitting in and being in the truth. And that truth can be ugly. It can be nasty. It could be beautiful. It could be silent. It can be neutral. It can be so many things. But as long as it's your truth, then how other people respond, it doesn't matter. And you're naturally going to attract those people and that energy that is for you, because you're sitting in your truth. Yeah. When you're not sitting in your truth, that's when you deal with a bunch of assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. A few things pop up for me in this. One, my middle school, high school best friend used to tell me, so think about it, I'm like 17, 18 at this point. She used to say that on my headstone, it would say, well, at least she was honest.
There you go.
So I get it with the truth. I have truth tattooed on my wrist. So I feel you with all of that. But one of the things that I struggled with early on, especially in my career and trying to figure out who I was as a mom and a wife and a business owner, was, what is my truth? Like, I started to doubt what it even was. Like, and that's where this dainty bitch thing kind of comes up for me, is that it is yes and. I am soft and strong. I am bold and weak. I am all of that. And sitting in that and learning to be okay with that and not having to choose, I'm going to be the badass entrepreneur who's super masculine and like crushes all the things, or I'm going to be the nurturing wife who's submitting to my husband in the bedroom. Like, I can be all of those things. And coming to terms with that has been raw and real. And I think that if we would all just get a little more honest with ourselves and stop having to project out to the world that we have it all figured out and that it's all good, and just being honest with, like, no, this is a shit show right now, and here's what I'm learning along the way, we're going to help make so much more impact in the lives of the people that we touch if we just like lay down the idea that we have to have it all figured out.
I agree. And I would say that for me, especially, I mean, I think this COVID-19, coronavirus, the Rona, whatever you want to call it, is really forcing people to sit in their own shit, including myself.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for me at first, because I'm someone that's used to, getting up every day. I have this routine. I put my face on or my mask on. I walk out of the house. I got to be picture perfect. And, when all of this hit, I begin to sort of, soften and remove all of that, and I'm rocking my yoga pants, I'm walking around the house with no bra, just swinging all around. And I'm like, I love this.
Yeah.
Like, this is great, and being able to just show up, my authentic self and still feel beautiful and still feel attractive and still feel worthy. I would never take a meeting without doing my makeup. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I did a pitch for one of my programs to a large GC that I want to have come on as a partner with us. Zero makeup. I would never do that before.
I'm so proud of you.
Let me tell you, it was rough at first, but I have learned to embrace, my acne scars. I've learned to embrace, all of my flaws, because that is what makes me me. I'm 44 years old. I'm very blessed. Girl, black don't crack. I don't have no wrinkles. So I will take that as long as I can get it. But, just being in a space where I can just be me has just been amazing. And even with this podcast, I have to tell you, my team had to drag me kicking and screaming to do this thing, to the point where they're like, you know what? I'm sick of you dragging your feet. We're just going to do everything. We're going to write the scripts. We're going to set it up. And we're going to you just have to come. Just come. And I've been so rebellious. Like, I haven't been reading the scripts until like 5 minutes before the podcast. Then I chuck the script and just do whatever the hell I want. But again, I've found so much of myself here, and they keep telling me, oh my gosh, this is totally you. Now I'm still figuring it out, but how blessed am I that I have people around me that see me, that see the real me, and are willing to hold me accountable to stay in that space.
The thing that you said that just strikes me so profoundly is I have found myself here. That's powerful. We have a mutual friend, Kelsey Ramsden.
Yes.
And I asked her one day, I said, do you think you know yourself, Kelsey? Because I was just really struggling with my own identity and who am I and who I want to be. And like, I too, I'm going to be 44 this year. And I'm like, I don't know who I am. And I don't know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And just having this identity crisis. And she said, Trivinia, I knew her all along. I just didn't trust her. And I was like, whoa, so powerful. And so it made me think, like, I'm so convinced that I don't know myself. And I think that's actually not true. I think I know damn well who I am. Yes. I just don't trust her.
You're afraid of her.
Exactly.
Fear. Yeah, it's fear. Yep. And for me, it's very similar, because I had a lot of fear of being myself. People would never know this about me. I am an introvert. I am not this outwardly gregarious. I can be. Yeah. But my nature is very quiet. I can literally sit at home for a week and not say one word.
Amen. I work in silence. I don't have any music in the background. I can just, I am perfectly content to be myself. Now, Corona's stretched me a little bit. I'm like, I think I need people. I finally have arrived at the place where I need some human interaction, but being okay with who we are. And I want to circle this back to business, because I think it's important for women who are thinking about starting a business or who are in the thick of building their businesses to be like, we're going to continue to evolve. And I think we put ourselves in these silos sometimes, LaShondra, of like, I built this thing, and so I have to be this girl, this woman. And it's like, no, girl, like, you can be whatever you want, whenever you want to. And I am challenged by that a lot, to think, I built this thing and I am known for this. And how do I then transition and be known for something different? And it is all of it. I can be the mom. I used to be like, oh, everyone just knew me because I was the girl that talked about adoption all the time, and it was like, well, then I was a girl that talked about executive assistants all the time. Well, what if now I want to be the girl that talks about dealing with our trauma? I don't know. I can be that girl too.
Yes, you can. So, you can. And that's one thing as women that I think we don't really take that right seriously. We have a right to change our mind if we feel like it.
Yeah, you think of a man in a boardroom, right? Or how many times men shift their business models, or they are serial entrepreneurs and they create 72 different types of businesses because they get bored easily. Exactly. Why can't we?
Exactly.
Why do I have to pick a lane and stay in it until I'm 82 and wrinkly? Like, I don't have to do that. But we can it's owning that. Like I can say that all glib and like cheerful, but I need to embody that and I need to feel it. And that's the work that I think a lot of us have to do, is to just really, we can read stupid quotes on Instagram, but like embodying them is
exactly.
harder.
There's a very big difference between knowing and believing.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of things that I know, like I know, I'm powerful. I know that I have the ability, to do great things. And I feel like I've done a lot. I don't feel like I have anything to prove, but believing that you can do it is such a different thing. It comes from such a different place, because that's really the driver. Like when you have faith and belief in something, you can visualize it, you can see it, and it may be 10 years out, but you will get there if you believe it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm really, really working on, because I'm always in my brain. I'm so cerebral, and I have a hard time getting out of that analytical mind and into that sort of subconscious, creative mind that's driven by, spirit and heart and all that. What do you call it? Woo woo. Sissy la la, foo la la stuff.
La la, yeah.
Well, whatever. All that woo woo. There you go, the woo woo stuff. But that's really what drives, because you have to believe, that you are part of something greater. And that part of something greater is what you can rely on, that's going to help you get to where you need to go, where your spirit needs to go, what you're put on this earth to do. So, I mean, that's kind of my spirituality side of it. But at the end of the day, we've done it. So you can love it or hate it. Me and you, we did it.
Yeah.
We some boss bitches. Or dainty bitches, or, whatever you want to call it, hot pink bitches. I don't know. But we've done it, and nobody can take that from us. And so everything else that we do is just icing on the cake.
Yeah. You're reminding me of something that I used to do, and I fell away from this practice. So it's kind of cool. I may need to pick this up again. As I created something based on something a mentor told me, and she said, I want you to create a badass list. And I'm like, what's that? And she's like, I want you to go back as far as you can remember in your life, in your childhood, in your business, whatever, and write every single minuscule thing that you did that was badass. Whether that was like you got the lead in the school play, or you graduated with honors, whatever it is. I did an ollie on my skateboard when I was 8 years old, whatever. Write it down and then revisit that list so that you can go back to it and see all of the accomplishments. Because I think sometimes we
That's a great idea.
Yeah. We sit in the muck and the mire of all the stuff we haven't done, or we didn't do, or we failed at.
Lack.
And exactly. And it's that reminder of like, oh girl, like I have raised 4 children. I have done all this. I've lost and gained the same 70 pounds year after year. Like that's an accomplishment, damn it.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, we have to remind ourselves of our greatness sometimes too.
Can I tell you something, Trivinia?
Tell me.
You are such a beautiful mess. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
You are a gorgeous, beautiful mess.
Thanks, girl.
Entrepreneurship, leadership, and success that I have found in the construction industry. If you want to hear more and you want to be a part of our community, follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter on our LinkedIn profile. If you want to share your thoughts after listening to this episode, feel free to drop a line in our LinkedIn podcast post. Thanks for listening, and we will connect next month.